I'm the CEO of China Biomedical and Technology Education Association, which I founded 20 years ago. Welcome to World IPF 2025. Our panel is Patenting Biotech and Pharmaceutical Invention, Navigating the Complexity. In today's rapidly advanced technology landscape, biotech and pharmaceutical stands at the forefront innovation. As researchers and scientists uncover groundbreaking discovery, and the importance of securing intellectual property rights for this invention become paramount. However, navigating the complexity of patenting in this highly specialized domain research requires a unique set of challenges. So for understanding the intricacies of patent law to ensure compliance with the regulatory framework, stakeholders must definitely maneuver through a maze of legal, ethical, and scientific considerations. So this journey is essentially not only to protect the fruits of science labor, but also to foster an environment that encourages continued innovation and development. Join us as we delve into the multifaceted world of patented biotechnology and pharmaceutical inventions and explore the strategy to overcome the hurdle along the long way. Today we have 6 esteemed experts in this panel. It's Mr. Michael Fuller from Connaught Martin, USA, and Dr. Madhuri Roy from Cooley LLP, USA, and Mr. Divya Shekhar from Independence, India, Mr. Avi Garg from Les Orbis, India, and Mrs. Suman Prasad from LS Devi Corporate, India, and also Mr. Vadim Kuala from NCO Association of Pharmaceutical Company. And our panelists will introduce themselves first, and they will tell you their expertise, preponderance, and records, so you can observe their expertise. And after when we open the Q&A, it will be very easy to learn from them and ask the right question to benefit yourself for this conference. And today we will also penetrating the issues such as jurisdiction-specific complexities, subject matter eligibility, and patentability criteria, and enablement requirements, written description, regulatory and policy interference, and also AI impacts on this innovation and other IPR set regarding marketing, legal aspects, law enforcement practice, and also some court cases sharing.
Good afternoon, everybody. We especially understand it's after lunch, so we hope that we aid your metabolism by keeping your mind sharp here. Thank you so much for the opportunity. And I'm a U.S.-based practitioner. This is my second year at this conference, and I really continue to enjoy the global plurality, which, as many of you who don't live in the U.S. know, that sometimes U.S. can be very U.S.-centric. So thank you for that opportunity. I practice life sciences, patent prosecution and counseling at Cooley LLP, and I'm a partner in our patent strategy and counseling group. Cooley is a international full practice law firm. I, like Mike, don't go to court, but I do everything else that has to do with patents. I sit in Northern California, and I represent largely emerging companies, innovators, and investors in that space, in the life sciences. That's biotech, pharma, and medical devices, although I'm a trained and card-carrying molecular cell biologist, so that's my passion. I've always found myself really drawn to innovation, and so even though I left the bench, I stayed close to innovation. And one thing I've been focusing a lot over the last couple of years in my business development efforts is helping support the globalization of innovation in the life sciences that's emanating in the therapeutics and diagnostic space out of India. And I mention that because there are a lot of Indian practitioners at this conference, in this audience, and this is a personal interest of mine. My parents left India in the early 60s, both as chemists, and other than perhaps coming back to India and teaching, there wasn't an India to come back to in the mid-60s from an industrialization perspective, and so they never did. And I only say that because if there are any those of you who are interested in the life sciences innovation that's really just burgeoning in India, I would love to talk to you and to partner with you if you have clients who are interested in commercializing ex-India. So it's not with an intention to replace the expertise that is in India, but to actually partner and further expand that. AI is a big part of what we're seeing globally, and as Mike said, in the life sciences space. So look forward to talking more about aspects of this. Questions?
Sorry, can I just ask one quick question on the first presentation about the monoclonal antibody case, which is interesting. I was just, is the reason for the allowability because there was a sequence difference, there was some structural difference with the monoclonal antibody as opposed to the endogenous antibody, or was it merely the fact that there was human intervention going on, and they could be identical, but since there's human intervention, it's allowable. And I'd be great to be reminded of the position in the US about that as well, actually. That's.
I think you wanted to know on the US, the analogous situation. So over the years, simply saying an isolated antibody is not sufficient to get over what otherwise would be a natural phenomenon. It worked for some years, and I think it's been over a decade since that is not sufficient. Adding wherein clauses wherein said antibody has been synthesized, has been recombinantly produced, those we're seeing, I think the case law would support that those would meet subject matter eligibility, but we are seeing some spread in our examining court in how they treat that. This issue of a sequence listing, I don't think that's come up specifically in the US, but it's an interesting point. In the sequence listing, for those of you in the biotech arts, you need to provide the origin of or the nature of what you're providing the seed. Is it synthetic? Is it human? Is it mouse? Is it, whatever? Is it DNA? Is it protein? Is it mixed? And more often than not, we have been putting synthetic when we are, for example, taking a human FC backbone and then putting something we've screened. Although in the specification we may say this is a human-like antibody or a humanized antibody, it is actually synthetic, and I think maybe that's where that court got to, right? These variable regions are not what is naturally occurring.
I just want to make one comment in the U.S. too, which is that everything she said is correct. But if you have a claim that says a synthetic antibody that has a particular sequence that you synthesize, if they find it in nature, your claim is dead.
Yes.
And so, all the words in the world calling it synthetic, recombinant, genetically produced, none of that matters in the U.S. You might get your patent, but your competitor finds it out in some tree in Brazil, the compound in nature, your patent is dead. So you've got to be very cautious in the U.S. trying to distinguish yourself from anything that potentially could ever be found out in nature.
Thank you, Michael. Would you like to address the situation in Russia? After we discussion how AI impact on patent pharmaceuticals and biotechs, it triggered us to rethink the enablement requirement and written descriptions, such as how we can enable full scope of claims, fulfill unpredictable natural requirements with reasonable amount of experimental data, and regarding the written description, what would be the appropriate clause for genus claim needed, representative species, crucial structural function relationship, specific sequence required for antibody claims. Dr. Roy will explain to us. So now the floor will be Dr. Roy, please. Dr. Roy would like to address some comments after all those obstacles and how we can overcome through this enablement requirement or written restrictions.
Absolutely. So enablement and written description are two different requirements in the U.S., and that's been clarified by the courts. Written description specifically is showing that you have possession of the invention and that you have enough representative members of a genus. And enablement is actually that you have sufficient disclosure that you've made, that you've actually taught somebody to make and use the invention. And there's a series of case law in enablement went up to the highest court, the Supreme Court, and for written description, the court just below that, which is the Federal Circuit. This has been developing in the biopharma space. There was a key decision, a Supreme Court decision around enablement in 2023 that related to antibodies, but it's being expanded to all areas, especially those in which there's variability. And it really is, in an unpredictable field, there is a much higher scrutiny for what is enabled, and disclosing something by function is not sufficient, and structure is needed. And how does this play out in the molecule space? No longer are you getting molecules that you're describing just functionally, and you need structure, you need sequence, you need structure. In the chemical space, you need actual structures. And with respect to written description, something similar, which is along the lines of you need enough representative members of a genus that you have described structurally and not just functionally. And so this is really shaping, of course, the antibody space, where a number of these cases have come up. Amgen v. Sanofi was the Supreme Court case, and a patchwork of written description cases, which, if you contact me later, I'm happy to share with you. But what we're seeing and wondering is if this is going to start to expand to other areas beyond just the chemistry and biology. And definitely we see litigators using these arguments to narrow inventions. One comment I wanted to make on enablement and the topic that was just discussed, which is sort of AI in inventions, is that separate from what Mike just discussed, the use of artificial intelligence by somebody, it was mentioned, Google and Meta, having these systems that can detect protein folding. Likewise, there's these large natural language models that can detect so many things: binding pockets, efficacy, predictive in silico. And something that I've been thinking about recently is that in the unpredictable arts, such as bio and pharma, we can make arguments, or the patent office will make arguments that there was undue experimentation is needed, therefore your invention is not enabled. But what if we can show that the AI model actually shows that this is going to bind at this pocket, or this is going to have this kind of affinity, or this kind of activity? It is not so undue. And so this, I think there will be an impact of AI for enablement. This is universal, this is not a US specific thing. And I think that the challenge in the next decade is going to be, how do we convince the patent offices of the world that it is undue or it is not undue, and how does the patent office show credible evidence to make that rejection? And so I will leave you with that, because I know we have other topics to cover.